Baker Mayfield is the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. He's had a pretty rough year. He did not live up to expectations on the field. And I think Baker Mayfield's really, really talented. I love him. I'm a big fan of his. I know that's controversial. I don't care. I think his story is interesting to me. I think Baker Mayfield's a guy I tend to root for. It's just really fascinating to me. And I think he's really talented. I think his arm strength, his accuracy, it's all there. The tools for him to be a successful quarterback are there. And not to mention, you got to acknowledge, Baker needs a better head coach. Freddie Kitchens, not the answer in Cleveland. The Browns need to get a better coach, maybe someone who can mentor Baker Mayfield a little bit. But I think Baker tends to get in his own way. This is why Baker's so attractive to me. He tends to get in his own way a lot. Here's the history of Baker Mayfield. As a freshman in college, Baker Mayfield walked on at Texas Tech University. He ended up playing. It was their day one starter. He broke freshman records at Texas Tech, which is a big deal because that's a team, Mike Leach was there at one point. The passing records there are crazy. And Baker Mayfield set records and yet still was not given a scholarship after the year ended. He got hurt, and it seemed like the coaching staff wanted another quarterback. It's debatable what really happened, but the rumor is that Baker Mayfield wasn't given a scholarship, even though it's pretty clear he deserved one. So Baker left. He went to Oklahoma, and he walked on to Oklahoma, and he developed a chip on his shoulder. He was phenomenal. And he's an underdog who made it. Baker Mayfield is a two-time walk-on in college who won the Heisman Trophy. Unbelievable. It's a cool story. I don't know how you don't listen to that story and go, wow, it's amazing. He walked on, didn't have a scholarship, earned a scholarship, won the Heisman Trophy, became what's called, the Heisman is literally the best player in college football. That's Baker Mayfield. Wow. Undersized guy too. That's really cool. And then Baker Mayfield became the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. And to me, once someone wins a Heisman Trophy and then becomes the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, they're no longer an underdog. And that story, it's hard to convince me the guy who's had a bunch of success recently, he's still an underdog. I don't buy it. The story doesn't work anymore. And I've finally figured out my disconnect where I'm slightly uncomfortable with Baker Mayfield. That chip on his shoulder makes him seem bitter, and I think it's unhelpful to him. So number 1, he leaves Texas Tech, and he leaves on bad terms. He trashes them. Things didn't end badly in college, and Baker Mayfield transferred. And then earlier this year, there was a moment where Baker Mayfield was talking about the Texas quarterback, Sam Ehlinger. And he's like, I don't like Sam. Sam and I, we hated each other. He went to my rival high school. He just seemed bitter. And it's like, why are you holding on to this thing from the past? And I've learned recently that moments in life are like chapters. Like, whether it's positive or negative as an experience, when it ends, let it go. Learn from it, move on. Let things be. The worst thing you can be in life is just bitter and still holding on to this thing from like 20 years ago. And there's a moment where in Baker Mayfield's career, at the end of last year, his rookie season, he had some success. He played really well. They won some games. He threw a bunch of touchdowns. And in Cleveland, when that happened, the expectations were raised. Suddenly, Baker Mayfield, he's got Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., some good receivers around him. He's had some success in the past. Expectations for Baker Mayfield were raised, and he was no longer the underdog on paper. And I really believe success can screw with your head. I remember I have my own place now. That's where we're recording this podcast. And when I got my own place, it messed with my head. I couldn't get out of bed for like a week, and I couldn't make videos. I couldn't make podcasts. I couldn't do anything. And it made no sense because you would think you get your own space, you have this incredible room to record in, and suddenly you can't work. What's going on? And the reality is that the story I was telling myself didn't line up with reality anymore. I was no longer the kid in a college dorm room that nobody believed in and made fun of. People were like, oh, this guy has 100,000 subscribers. He's no longer the story I was telling myself didn't line up anymore. It didn't work. When you tell yourself that you're this underdog, angry guy looking to prove everybody wrong, it doesn't line up with the fact that you have success anymore. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. That story doesn't work when you succeed. And so you got to find a new story to tell yourself when you have a little bit of, look, I'm not trying to say I'm successful. I have a lot of work to go. I try to have a healthy respect for that. I'm very grateful of my own place, but I got work to go, and there's a long journey ahead. And I know, look, this is a weird topic. Everyone's like, Zach, where are you going with this? Get to the point. People are like, Zach, what are you talking about? Here's my point of all this. I'm really curious to see the progression of Baker Mayfield off the field as a person in the next year. I want to see, where does Baker Mayfield go as more than a quarterback on the field, but as a person in interviews and work ethic off the field? Is he in more commercials? What kind of thing, what are we going to see from Baker Mayfield off the field going into this offseason and into next year? There was a really cool story a couple weeks ago where, really, here's what's wild. Texas Tech, the head coach when Baker Mayfield was there was Cliff Kingsbury. Well, Cliff Kingsbury is now the Cardinals head coach. And a couple weeks ago, Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns played against Cliff Kingsbury and the Arizona Cardinals. And so the reports came out that, it sounded like some of the things that Baker Mayfield said in interviews, it sounded like Cliff Kingsbury and Baker Mayfield buried the hatchet. They were letting go of the past and moving forward. I was like, that's pretty cool. It sounds like some maturity from Baker Mayfield. He gave a good answer. I was like, wow, he's moving forward. And I really believe, this is the key, I believe Baker Mayfield has all the tools to be successful. He's got a great arm. His velocity for a guy his size, he's got one of the stronger arms in the NFL, and it's because he's got incredible mechanics. His mechanics are great. He's really accurate. I've done a film analysis of Baker Mayfield. I really like his physical ability. My fear is that he's going to get in his own way. Similar, I get the comparisons of Johnny Manziel now more than ever because I think when Baker Mayfield was in college, people kept comparing him to Johnny Manziel, and I said, look, these are different issues. And they are different issues from Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel got in his own way differently than Baker Mayfield gets in his own way. But the underlying gut feeling it gives you is the same discomfort. Like, Baker Mayfield, something's off. And it's because Johnny Manziel gets in his own way because he just can't seem to do the work. He can't seem to stay sober. There's all these other problems. Baker Mayfield wants to work hard. He has the right intentions. But I think the story he tells himself, his motivation, his anger, his bitterness from the past, I think those things hold him back more than anything. And I want to see if Baker can get his head on straight and get some other stuff figured out in his life, because the statements he's made to the media often look bad. And the person he presents seems bitter and angry. And if Baker Mayfield can get through all that and deal with those issues, I think he'd play great on the field. I think there's more than just physical stuff on the field. He's got to deal with other things. And I hope desperately that Baker Mayfield gets a head coach that can mentor him a little bit as a person as well as a quarterback. The whole point of this topic, if you miss, it's like the last sentence I'm going to say, but the reason why I did this topic is I am so curious to see how and if Baker Mayfield develops his mindset off the field. Does he evolve outside of the game? What is his mindset like a year from now? The things he's saying in interviews, the work ethic he has, is he in more commercials? I want to see where Baker Mayfield is, where his mindset is a year from now.